Every Detroit story starts with a car. Ford, the assembly line, the union halls, the layoffs. But look at the name. Detroit is French for the strait. The city isn't named for a founder or a saint. It's named for the water. A 28-mile channel, the final leg of the passage between Lake Huron and Lake Erie. The town got named after the strait because in 1701, the strait was the only thing there worth naming. So the question isn't why cars came to Detroit. It's what was already sitting there when they showed up. And why that same thing built the city, wrecked it, and is starting to pull it back. Before the railroads, there were no roads into the American interior. There were rivers, and there were the lakes. The Great Lakes hold about 21% of the world's surface freshwater. But the volume isn't the point here. It's the shape. 5 lakes chained together into a highway that runs 1,000 miles inland from the Atlantic, straight through the best farmland and the best iron country on the continent. If you wanted to move anything heavy into or out of the middle of North America, you moved it on that water. There was nothing else. And that highway has one narrow point. Everything moving between Lake Huron and Lake Erie has to go through the Detroit River. Every ship. There's no other way around. A system that drains 1/3 of a continent squeezes through a channel you can see across. Cadillac built his fort there in 1701 to control the fur trade. Fur was everywhere, but to get it to market, you had to pass Cadillac's fort. You could stand on the bank and watch every boat in the system float past. Put a fort there and you control the middle of a continent. The British took it. The Americans took it back. It changed hands in 3 wars, and every time it was a first-week objective. And the traffic proves it. In 1907, before the auto industry amounted to anything, the Detroit River carried over 67 million tons of cargo. That year, the Port of London moved about 18 million tons. New York moved about 20 million. Put those two together, and you still haven't even come close to the river running past Detroit. A freshwater channel in the middle of the continent was out-hauling the 2 greatest saltwater ports on Earth, combined, because the geography had turned it into a toll booth, which mattered enormously a few years later when something showed up that needed exactly that. Here's the version everyone knows. Henry Ford was from Michigan. Ford built his company in Michigan, and Detroit got lucky. There is something to that. Ford was a local. So were the Dodge brothers, and Ransom Olds, and dozens of others. But a car isn't an idea. It's 2 tons of processed rock. And in 1910, the 2 heaviest things you needed to build one were coming from opposite directions. Iron ore came down from Minnesota's Iron Range on freighters. Coal came up from Pennsylvania and Ohio across Lake Erie. Ore heading south, coal heading north, and they met at the strait. Detroit wasn't especially close to the raw materials, but it was where they crossed. Ford took that to its logical extreme. He put the River Rouge plant right at the mouth of the Rouge River, so ore boats could pull in off the lakes and unload straight into the building. Ore in one end, finished cars out the other, a little over a day later. Power plant, steel mill, glassworks, 90 miles of private railroad, all inside one fence, because the water let him put it there. By the late 20s, the Rouge employed something like 100,000 people. One plant, on one riverbank, with more workers than most American cities had residents. And it worked there instead of in Pittsburgh or Chicago because Detroit sat on the seam where the ore met the coal. The car industry didn't make Detroit important. Detroit's geography made a car industry that size possible. Which is where the argument runs into trouble, because Detroit wasn't the only city on that water. Now, there is a hole in this argument, and if you know the Great Lakes, you probably spotted it 2 minutes ago. Cleveland is on Lake Erie, took the same ore, and sat closer to the coal. Buffalo had the Erie Canal and cheap hydroelectric power Detroit could only envy. Toledo, Milwaukee, Chicago, all had lake access, rail, capital, and skilled labor. Every one of those cities built cars, but none of them became Detroit. So the strait isn't the whole answer, and I'm not going to pretend it is. Here's what the geography actually did. It didn't guarantee Detroit would win. It guaranteed that whoever won would win huge, and that the winner would be somewhere on the water between the ore and the coal. Detroit had the cheapest inputs for the heaviest product on Earth. That didn't make it inevitable, but it did make it the likeliest place for the factors to compound. Then it did. Olds, Ford, the Dodge brothers, Durant, a group of stubborn machinists inside the same 50 square miles, stealing each other's suppliers and learning from each other's mistakes. Cleveland had the geography and got a normal outcome. Detroit got a chain reaction. Geography doesn't pick the winner. It picks the size of the prize. And the prize on the strait was big enough that once an industry caught fire there, nothing was going to put it out. Nothing except a change in what the water was for. The standard explanation for what happened next is a list of villains. Bad management, the unions, foreign competition, corruption, white flight. Everyone has a favorite and all of them have a place in the story. But under all of it is something more foundational. Detroit's advantage was never the water by itself. It was the gap between what water cost and what everything else cost. Moving a ton of iron by ship was so much cheaper than any other method that the lakes worked like a moat around the industry. You couldn't compete with a city sitting on the cheapest route. Then, the country spent 30 years building the interstate highway system, and the moat drained. Once trucking got cheap and the roads got good, the penalty for building a factory in the wrong place mostly went away. A plant in Tennessee could truck to New York for a reasonable cost, and it came with cheaper land, cheaper labor, and no snow. Nobody beat Detroit's natural advantage. They just made it stop mattering, which is worse because there's nothing to fight. That's the thing about a geographic advantage. You never own it. You're borrowing it from whatever the technology happens to be, and it can get taken back without warning. Detroit obviously didn't stop being on the strait. The strait stopped being the point. For about 50 years, anyway. Stand on the riverbank in Detroit today and look south. South because Canada is south of Detroit, which almost nobody believes until they see it. And you're looking at the busiest commercial border crossing in North America. The Ambassador Bridge alone has carried roughly a quarter of all merchandise moving between the United States and Canada. Something like $150 billion in trade a year crosses that single bridge, and over $300 billion across the wider Detroit border region. They're finishing the Gordie Howe Bridge next to it because one bridge over that channel isn't enough. Two of the biggest economies on Earth touch, along a border thousands of miles long, and the spot where the most goods cross is the same Chokepoint Cadillac put a Ford on in 1701. The strait never stopped doing what straits do. The traffic just changed shape. And it's changing again. The battery and EV supply chain is assembling itself along the Great Lakes corridor, Ontario, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, for the same boring reasons as last time. Heavy inputs, long distances, and a manufacturing base already sitting where the routes converge. And the base never left. Michigan still runs 26 major OEM manufacturing and assembly plants and builds more than 2 million vehicles a year. About a fifth of everything made in the country. Of the 100 largest auto suppliers in North America, 98 of them have an operation in the state. 65 are headquartered there. The tool shops, stamping plants, and supplier network are all still clustered around the strait, because they were built there when the water demanded it. Infrastructure that heavy doesn't move. The geography of building a car in North America never changed. It just went quiet for 50 years. Go back to the name, Detroit, the strait, a French word for a piece of water, used to name a city that spent 100 years getting described as a car town. But cars didn't build Detroit. They were just the biggest thing that ever came for the water. They stayed 80 years and left a wreck. The water's still there. The strait was there before the fort. The fort was there before the freighters. The freighters were there before Ford. Every one of them showed up for the same reason. This is where the continent narrows to a point, and everything has to pass through. Detroit was never a car city that happened to sit on a river. It was a river that a car city happened to grow on. If you want to see the same forces play out across a whole region instead of one city, the Midwest manufacturing video tells the story. I'll link it here. The world has a structure. Let's keep finding it.